So today's topic for Coffee Talk is eyebrow shaping, eyebrow mapping, and getting the eyebrow that is suitable for you and your face shape. Now, I've covered this several times on IGTV. You can actually look in at the Reels section and just look down under the series. And today I'm going to talk about using the facial morphology tools that we've been trained with all over the years, which are deemed to guide us artists in the best shape brow for our client. So face shape is taken into consideration, the fact that we're not symmetrical, and our facial morphology tools are so handy when you have a client who would say have an oval face shape, a square shaped face, heart shaped face, diamond shaped face, and a narrow long shaped face. So that's generally the 5 face shapes. But then we have a added problem with the skull, the anatomy of the skull, is that we're not symmetrical. So if I put a line from here right through my nose and through my cupid's bow, one side of my face is different to the other. That's not just me, it's the same with everybody. But added to that, on her forehead, one side is flatter and one side is a little bit rounder. So generally this eyebrow tends to be shorter than this one. That's naturally the case. Also, you'd be able to see the start and the finish of this brow because this side is flatter, whereas the tail goes around the corner on this side. Add to that, if a client had a broken nose at some point, you will find that the nose is deviated, maybe very slightly off to one side. Mine isn't exactly straight. And maybe they've had lip filler and their cupid's bow isn't exactly where it should be either. And add to that again is sometimes we have clients with an overdeveloped eyebrow muscle. They could be that person that when they're talking, they're real eyebrow talkers, and one side could be more developed than the other. So this is where we have to use our artist's eye. So when I did my training years and years and years ago, we didn't have all these facial morphology tools. All we had was the artist's eye, and I'm naturally creative, and that suited me down to the ground. But with all the trainings with facial morphology and all the digital tools, etc., tend to rely on them rather heavily, and particularly in the last 5 or 6 years, I've used them, and they've never seen me wrong. And that's in a client who has a reasonably symmetrical face. But then when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have a symmetrical face, or for example, they've used Botox, maybe one eyebrow might be higher than the other, that is why we usually recommend that you have either a consultation done beforehand or delay your Botox until after you've had the work done with us, because the Botox wears off, whereas our work is permanent. And there are times that we actually have to ditch the facial morphology tools, as I did have to do recently actually, and use our artist's eye. And every time I drew a brow on this particular client, it just didn't look right until we ditched the tools and used the artist's eye. And it's at times like that that I am so thankful that I was naturally creative in the first place. Now, another thing that has to be taken into consideration, and I'm delighted that I'm doing it in Coffee Talk today, is if a client wears glasses, and if they like to wear glasses, and if they have a series of different glasses that they like to wear on a daily basis, myself included. I love this shape glasses because my eyebrow peaks up from the rounded shape of these glasses. But I actually have one ear lower than the other. So oftentimes if I use glasses that have a straight top, you can see that the glasses is actually going off to one side. One eyebrow is peeking up and the other one is not. So I usually recommend that if a client wears glasses, to bring them with her so that we can take that into consideration in the final draw. Now, be reassured, no microblading goes ahead. until you are 100% happy with the shape. In actual fact, we keep going until you actually say, that's the eyebrow that I want. We do the final measurements. We make sure that I'm happy and you're happy. I'm only going to see you twice in a year. So I need for you to be very happy with your eyebrow, even if it means bringing several pairs of glasses so that we can adjust it and make sure that the final shape is what you love and want for the rest of your life, because bear in mind, this is something that is permanent. So the brow that is actually drawn on you with the facial morphology tools, I just need to reassure you that it's just a suggested brow, and usually you are given, well, always you are given the opportunity to go to several mirrors, go from side to side, look at yourself straight on, and make sure that you're 100% happy with the shape that you're given. Bear in mind, we're not symmetrical, and very occasionally one eyebrow could be lower than as could be the case with maybe a client who'd had a previous stroke, or maybe a small stroke in the past, or has facial flaccidity. Invariably what we would do in that instance is try to match one brow with the other. Bear in mind, you're not going to get a perfect match anyway because we're not symmetrical. But if one eyebrow is lower than the other, we would then suggest that they get a slight little bit of a Botox so that they can actually give it the final little lift so that it's in symmetry and in parallel with your other eyebrow. So there you go. Eyebrow mapping is tricky. It is, we deal with a lot of different face shapes on a daily basis, and then we have the added that we're not symmetrical. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the artist's eye is brought out to play, and please be reassured that nothing goes ahead until you give us the go-ahead that you're happy. So I hope that helps. And if you are in any way worried, I would always suggest that you come and have a proper consultation done first, so that you can get a feel for the work that we do. You can get a feel for the eyebrow styling that we do, and the suggested eyebrow shape that we recommend for you. And you can go away and actually, in the comfort of your own home, that you can examine your eyebrows straight on from side to side every time you glance in the mirror, before you actually have the work done. So I would highly recommend that people come for a consultation first to see if, firstly, they're a suitable candidate, and secondly, if they like the type of work that we do. Not everybody is going to be a good fit with us, and that's okay too. We're not a good fit for everybody either. So yeah, so book in for your consultation. I hope that helps.